Hey guys, it's Laura Hyatt with Team Callahan at Keller Williams. Welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk. And this week, our special guest is Cindy Crane, who is a past client of ours and a longtime friend. And today we're talking what it's like to buy and sell a home during COVID, right? Very timely conversation. So Cindy, thanks for being my guest today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep,
So,
you guys, we've bought and sold more than one house to you guys. I think for me, this is the third. And for my husband, he purchased one before I ever knew him as well. So for him, it's the fourth. So we're pretty tied in with you guys.
Yeah. It's been several properties over the years, kind of in Savannah, leaving Savannah, back to Savannah. So it's been fun to kind of see that evolve. So talk to us. We know you sold the home that you were living in and you bought a new one. You kind of upgraded a little bit, if you will. So let's talk kind of like logistics and timelines for a second. You and I were chatting previously, like we looked at the data and it was you purchased your new home in February.
Right.
And you sold your current home then in April. Had you already decided kind of pre-COVID, if you will, to like, hey, we want to move our family? Like what was driving that decision?
We had been searching for over 2 years, really, for a home that better suited our needs. We really loved the layout of our previous house, but there were a few things that we couldn't quite achieve in that home. We really wanted some form of off-street parking, and we also really wanted a rental property as part of the whole situation. And so we kept looking, and I think our realtor Russ, I believe it probably helped us tour about 20 properties over a span of 2 years. And we would find things, occasionally there would be a cluster of homes that would come on the market and we would say, oh, wow, okay, there were like 4 or 5 potential ones. Let's just go on a Saturday and we'll see them all. And then usually we couldn't quite agree on one of those homes being right for us.
This was the right one.
Right. And I mean, really, you have to have a unanimous, decision, or it's just, it's not worth moving. It's just not worth moving unless everybody says yes.
Yeah.
So that was, we had been on the hunt for a while. So in late December, we went to see a house that had an open house, and we just went on a whim and we liked it. And so we called Russ and said, we want to see this again, just by ourselves and with your research for us to go with, let us
go with his data.
Yeah, we wanted to know more stats, and we wanted to really feel the home without having a lot of other traffic walking through at the same time. Sure. So that's kind of how this all began. But because 2 years ago we had decided that if we found the right home, we needed to be ready to jump on it. Mm-hmm. We agreed on that. If it checked a ton of boxes and we both agreed, then we needed to be able to put a sign in the yard like within a week. And so we had begun the preparation process for our old home, really when we first bought it, which was more than 5 years ago, 6 years ago, more than 6 years ago. But we had been fixing it up all along, and then finally decided, okay, if we're serious and we want to do this, then we need to be able to, stick with the plan, put a sign in the yard, and be ready in 1 week.
So I think the text I got from Mike, your husband, was, we found a house, we need to list ours, we're ready. Like it was
that was it. So it was interesting. It took us a while to get to that state, but after we saw the house that we did end up putting an offer on and are now living in, I don't think a paintbrush left my hand for 2 every single free moment I had, I was, touching up my trim paint inside, or I was finding the match to, do some type of wall repair, anything that needed to happen. We were like,
those little things that when you live in that house and it's yours, you're like, who cares if you squat the ceiling, but like that buyer is going to notice.
And we also didn't want to have any kind of clutter be a distraction. And since I am an artist, I own a lot of supplies. So we ended up renting a storage unit, and we filled that thing to the brim. We filled that storage unit with tons of boxes. Also, there were toys that we weren't sure yet our kids were willing to part with, but we knew that if we removed them from the scene for a couple of months, they might forget about it, or they might decide they're kind of in like a holding pattern.
Yeah.
So a lot of things went to the storage unit so we could declutter. So we took that very seriously, and that was huge for us as well. So there was a lot that went into play once we found the house that we were in.
But you've kind of been building this plan, which honestly, that is a great plan, whether you're selling a home in COVID or just, we'll call it pre-COVID, back in the good old days, you know?
Yeah.
It's just a great plan to just minimize any distractions and just make your home shine as best as it possibly can to attract buyers.
Right. Yeah, so it was definitely something that it's hard to do when you have 2 kids in elementary school. It's hard to do it, but it's truly the best way to get the most value out of your home. And every little bit counts when you're trying to sell, including light bulbs and all the things. And so, we went through our chandeliers to make sure that all the light bulbs matched. I mean, all the things that you don't care about yourself.
Right.
But it would be distracting to someone who came through the house if they weren't you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about my own house, and like there's a light fixture that definitely has a burnout bulb, and I just painted my ceiling in my kitchen this weekend, and I know I missed a spot, and I'm like,
yeah, it's only you.
That matters. Yeah,
the only one who sees it, probably.
Yeah.
But it's everything changes when you put an offer on a house and you're ready to make the jump.
Exactly. And you had kind of also done your financial planning and strategy before that too. That was part of your whole pre-planning. So you knew this is our game plan, both logistics speaking and financially speaking. So it was just a matter of finding the right house for you.
Right. Now we did luck out in that because we found a house about maybe 3 or 4 months prior that we were interested in. I was more interested in it than my spouse. So I was trying to go through all the numbers and kind of force it to work, like trying to force, a shoe on your foot when it's the wrong size. Yeah. And so I was trying to go through all the numbers. And so I had actually just recently been in touch with Michael Caputo at your office to verify, my thoughts on the reno that needed to happen to this fixer-upper I'd found a few months prior. So finally, when I realized I wasn't able to get, my husband on board with that one, I was like, okay, fine. All right. But it was good. It was a blessing in disguise. We had all of that financial work already sort of, the papers were open. The file was open. We had already sort of started digging a little bit and figuring out what our home value was for the place that we currently were living and what we could probably expect to get out of it. And all those different little parts. We were fortunate enough to have already started that process.
Yeah, which is so smart. I mean, I think anytime that you're looking to make a move, it's never too soon to start those conversations, Right. There's no obligation to do that as far as, a real estate agent or a lender, at least not with us. So that's, it's great. And so if I remember correctly on the details, you closed in February for the new house.
Right.
It was in the sale in April for the old house. So tell me, we were talking earlier, what was that experience like? Like closing in February versus closing in April? Like COVID hit right in the middle of it.
It was a little nerve-wracking because we also thought we had a buyer. We thought we had a buyer. It was a friend of a friend who wanted to move to their block, and we were like, oh, this is the perfect fit. This is so good. And so we thought we had everything ready, and then at the last minute, they were like, you know what? We just have a few reservations about moving right now, and we just can't follow through right now. We just can't do it. And we already had our contract in place, and we had not yet listed publicly because we thought we had a private party buyer.
Right.
And so all of a sudden we said, okay, well, if it's not going to happen, you can't force it. Like if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. So we said, okay, well then we're going to call Dawn and say, Dawn, we are officially ready to book your photographer, and we're ready to officially list with all of your paperwork. Yeah. Please tell us the soonest date we can do that. And he said, really, you're ready for a photographer soon? We're like, oh, we're ready today. If you could send someone today, we would do it. And he said, well, I can't, we have to to schedule these things. We were like, what's with all the scheduling stuff? Who needs us? Just send her on over.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, we worked together though. We got everything lined up, and it was good because it did give us just that extra little bit of time. And even though we felt we had things in place in ways that made sense, the home stager came through and was truly just wonderful. Everything that she said was accurate. And there were some things we are very kind people. We don't have green thumbs. We like plants. Plants don't thrive with us. But she said, okay, I need you to be brave. I need you to be brave and get a couple of these plants. You need some plants. And I was like, you're right. We do need some plants. I hope they make it through this experience. I want them to.
Also better sell quick for the plant's sake. Yeah.
Yes. And so we went and we did what she said. We got some plants, and it did feel warmer in those spaces. And she did have us move some things around. And at first we thought, this feels awkward, but really it made more sense to the person walking in the door. It made more sense to see the room in the way that she had instructed us to move some things. And so we really were happy to get their help prior to photographing and listing. So
what I'm hearing you say is trust the stager.
Yeah, really. Yes. Trust the stager. And I mean, as silly as it sounds, trust the system. I know you can't say that with every system, but we had already tested this system. So we knew that you guys have like a well-oiled machine over there. So we're like, okay, we have to just trust the whole process, because at this point, our version of this deal, which was, we had a person who approached us and said, we are interested in your house. And we said, great, we don't even have to do anything else. And that fell through. So we're like, well, clearly we don't know how to do this anymore. So now we need the pros. So it was very helpful in the end. It was extremely helpful.
Yeah. So talk to me, what was it like to go to a closing? Like, what was closing like in February? Like closing, and then how did it change by April?
Closing in February was fairly normal. They had limited how many people could meet in a room. Mm-hmm. So it was just myself and my spouse, and then the couple who was selling to us, and then the attorney and the realtor. And that was it. It was easy, and we all met around one big table, a conference room table. There was a bowl of candy on the table. Like, it was very normal for what it used to be. Yeah. And then when we closed in April, they said, okay, here's the location of the closing. So we looked at an address, and they said, when you get there, wait in the car and then call us, and we will wave you in. And then you come to the door, we step aside, you must be masked. We will put hand sanitizer on you, point you to the stairwell to use, go upstairs, you'll be in a conference room. Only one of you at a time will sign papers. And then when you're finished signing all the papers, you will then go downstairs, tag your spouse. They will now go upstairs solo and sign papers. So it was a very different experience. Masked the whole way. Yeah. Free hand sanitizer at every turn. It was a very safe experience. Mm-hmm. And knowledge is power. So totally. We didn't know in February that maybe that should have been the protocol. But so early. None of us really knew.
It wasn't. I don't think it was real yet for a lot of people in February.
That's exactly correct. It wasn't real yet. It was still kind of like, well, probably not here.
Happening over there.
It might be in the bigger cities, but it wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. And by April, I mean, the city of Savannah was on lockdown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? There were like essential versus not essential businesses, and who could do what and whatnot. And I mean, and since then, we've kind of come out of it a little bit more, right? As far as like lockdown, and there's still like, we wear masks, we do things, and da-da-da-da. And so now closings today, I mean, you can physically go to closings, that can still happen, but they're still limiting, who can come in. I don't think it's as strict as like one of you and one of you. It's like, okay, husband, wife, let's get you to sign, and then buyer, seller, get over here, so they're still being smart, but it still can happen. Because I think about closing, and I know you've done this several times, right? You know what it's like to buy and sell a home, but
Right.
thinking back to your first purchase or sale, like you probably had questions that you wanted to be able to
Oh,
ask,
yeah.
you know? And so knowing that that can still happen today and keep everyone safe, like I think it just
Yeah.
keeps in mind for everyone.
Yeah, they definitely were very attentive, and they wanted to make sure that we weren't blindly signing anything. So
Right.
that was very good. They said if you have any questions at all, you know, put one of these highlighting or color sticker notes on the paper, and you know, then hand us the paper, and then we can read it. So there's definitely, they don't want to be in your breathing space right
Sure.
here next to you to look at a paper, but they want to make sure you're comfortable. So that was good. Yeah,
Yeah.
overall it was a different experience, but still a good experience.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that we've learned that like we're really adaptable humans, you
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
we're resilient and we're adaptable. And so there's been a lot of pivots, and especially in real estate this year.
Mm-hmm.
But houses are still selling, people are still buying, people are still selling, you know? And so I think that's the interesting thing. And to be able to experience, you were kind of like, you had a foot in both ponds, you know, when
Right.
you think about your experience. And so is there anything that you would tell people who are considering a move during 2020 that like, oh, I don't know, could I, should I? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say as someone who did, you know, both sell something and buy a new home and move your family?
Yeah. I I have a couple ideas. One would be really make sure that financially it makes sense
Mm-hmm.
right now, and that your job situation is stable, because you don't need to add more stress to this current situation. But if those things, or perhaps you're moving for your job, maybe your job is
Right.
relocating you, that happens too. Um, there's a way to make it work. There's a way to make it work. You know, the virtual tours you guys are doing is fantastic. People can really see a property, experience it a bit before, you know, coming to the city. So that's helpful, I think, for a lot of people. But, you know, as far as that goes, if they're serious about wanting to sell their home, in addition to, you know, to moving and buying, um, I think you just have to take it seriously. Take the whole process seriously. Don't try to cut corners. You know, and if you need to have masks at the door, it used to be that occasionally we would see a house and they would have the little booties at the door that you put on
Right.
your feet.
Right.
And some people said, oh, we have brand new carpet, or it's just been cleaned. We want everyone to wear these on their feet. And now, you know, you might as well buy a box of masks and stick them at the door, because, you know, it's better just to go ahead and know that people are trying to abide by the rules. You know, but there's definitely a way to make it happen still. I think the difference in living in a house that's wrong for you versus living in a house that's right for you,
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows what that feels like. The difference is very real. So, you know, you have to keep looking until you find the right thing.
Yeah, and I think right now we're seeing a lot of people who are deciding that like, wow, home it's more important than ever, you know, and understanding, do I need a flex space to do work from home or school from home, or what does it look like? Or gosh, this house when everybody's here all the time is just too small, you know, and kind of reevaluating what's working. And then, yeah, when it comes to the actual physical process of buying or selling, like there's so many ways that we can make it happen, you know, because we've had clients on the full end of the spectrum, the ones that are like, it's mask, gloves, booties, I'll step outside, you go in, to whatever.
Right.
And everywhere in
Right.
between. And I think it's practicing grace and flexibility and understanding what's going to make the seller and the buyer and the agents comfortable, and how can we make it happen. And I think when we have everybody in on that like win-win solution, anything is possible, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's a different experience now, but it's still happening, and
Yeah,
people still need places to live.
absolutely.
So, you know, I spoke to a few people at the park. It was last month, I guess, in August, and they said, "Oh gosh, you know, we had thought about moving, but we're nervous to list our house right now. We just don't know if we would get enough out of it, or if it would be, you know, a fast enough sale." And I'm thinking, actually, I think things are really going quickly. There are not enough people listing, and so when someone does, it sells fast. It
Yeah,
really does sell quickly. And so, you know, if anybody's hesitant, I'd say just weigh your options, because like you said, now that people are doing virtual school and working from home and doing all these different things, if your house isn't right for you, you really are feeling it right now, because this is making it that much more obvious, you know?
Yeah. And you're right. Like, we are experiencing an amazing market right now because it's kind of the perfect storm. And I know I didn't pay you to say this, but it is the perfect storm, really, because we've got low inventory, so low amount of homes for sale, and we have really low mortgage rates. So it's kind of this weird win-win for both buyers and sellers. And typically in real estate, it's the market leans one way or the other, right? It's either like, oh, it's a really great time to sell, yeah, okay for buying, or wow, amazing deals, get in and buy, sorry, Mr. Seller. And now it's like, it's the best of both worlds. And so, yeah, I think you're right. Like, if anyone is considering a move and has hesitation, like, it never hurts to make a phone call, right? To talk to a vendor,
really,
talk to an agent.
Like, and you know, we were actually pretty surprised at what we could get out of our last house. We were actually pretty surprised. We did make a lot of improvements to it. We added a bathroom. We, you know, added an air-conditioned space. It became the office. We completely changed what used to be, you know, a porch into a laundry room with actual doors on it and all of that. So, you know, we made some, and we made a huge deck outside. We did a lot of things to it.
For your plants, right? Deck for your plants.
Yeah, for all the plants that we can, you know, try to keep alive. But we, you know, we did a lot to the house, but we weren't expecting to be able to get as much out of it as we did. And I think there are a lot of people in Ardsley Park and other surrounding areas in Savannah who would be surprised at what they can get for their house. It's worth calling someone and having a realtor come over and give their true opinion after walking through the space on what you could get for your home.
Because that might help be one of the deciding factors for you. You know, like, if I could, you know.
Yeah, it was for us. I mean, when we found out what we could get out of our home, we said, oh, well, then that changes what we can put down as a down payment, you know, for another. And that really changes what we'll have to work on in the next property. You know, do we need to do an immediate window replacement, or do we need to do something else that's I guess more of an emergency fix, like a roof patch or something. And so this really
put me in a new price range that I wasn't considering.
Yeah, it really can. So yeah, if someone's considering, I would say absolutely leave no stone unturned in that regard, because, you know,
yeah,
it's worth knowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Cindy, it's such a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you for joining me today for Coffee Talk. Yeah, and sharing your experience, you know.
Yeah, it was unique. That's for sure.
That's what it's about.
But it was worth it. It was all worth it.
Totally worth it. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for doing that. And guys, tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. for a new episode of Coffee Talk. All right, we'll see you next week.